Hello, my name is Rico Rivera, and I am a student at Puerto University. I am here to inform you on how the Spanish-American War in 1898 changed the history of Puerto Rico. By the end of my speech, I hope you will be better informed on how Puerto Rico established a U.S. territory. Puerto Rico was originally a Spanish colony until 1898 through the Treaty of Paris. Spain ceded the island to the United States. When you travel outside the United States for a vacation and realize you are technically still on U.S. soil, raises questions as of how does that happen. Puerto Rico is definitely the perfect place to get away from home, but still be at home. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, then transitioned living in the U.S. I have questioned what many have wondered. How can Puerto Rico be out of the country and no passport is needed? Why are Puerto Ricans considered U.S. citizens? And if Puerto Rico is considered part of the U.S., then why is it not a state? If you are like me, you would like to know the root of how all this came to be, which starts with Spanish-American War. In order to inform you of Puerto Rico's establishment in the U.S., I will explain to you Puerto Rico under the Spanish authority, U.S. invasion, and the Treaty of Paris. Let us begin with describing Puerto Rico under the Spanish authority. Christopher Columbus discovered Puerto Rico in 1493 and was permanently taken into Spanish authority in 1508. According to the 1987 article by Frank Calugi, Puerto Rico, its land, history, culture, and literature, Spain saw the significance of Puerto Rico due to its location as a gateway to the Caribbean and rest of its possession in the Americas. Spaniards badly mistreated Puerto Rico's original inhabitants, the Indians, and replaced them with the African slaves. Many countries have attempted to gain the rule over Puerto Rico, and the U.S. attempted to purchase the island in the amount of $160 million, but the offer was turned down. In 1898, U.S. Navy ship the USS Maine sunk near the Spanish territory, and war was declared because many believed Spain had probable cause in order to prevent the U.S. from gaining Spanish territory. The Spanish-American War was declared by the U.S., and Spanish territories were invaded by the U.S. U.S. destroyed a key post of Spain, Santiago de Cuba Bay, which caused the Spanish forces to weaken. 1,800 U.S. troops, with the assistance of the U.S. Navy, landed on the islands and proceeded to invade Puerto Rico's capital, San Juan. As the U.S. closed in on the Spanish forces in Puerto Rico, Spain agreed to sign a peace of treaty to prevent military hostility. Peace of treaty clearly establishes that all Puerto Ricans' affairs were to be decided by the U.S. Congress. Up to this day, nothing has changed. The Treaty of Paris is still in effect. All the important aspects of Puerto Rico's life are still decided in Washington. Treaty of Paris came into effect as the result of the Spanish-American War, in which Puerto Rico became a commonwealth of the U.S. Puerto Rico transitioned from Spanish authority to the U.S. authority, never having the opportunity to become independent. Puerto Rico, under the U.S. authority, remained a poor farmland island despite no longer being under the Spain. Puerto Rico eventually became U.S. citizens due to the Jones Act in 1917, which President Woodrow Wilson signed, and the ability to draft its own constitution in 1952, which was symbolic to a new day and age for the country who saw independence. In conclusion, Puerto Rico became under the authority of the U.S. due to defeating Spanish forces. Now that I have provided you with the results of the Spanish-American War in regards to Puerto Rico, I hope you have a better understanding of its ruling under Spain, the reason why U.S. invaded the island, and how did the U.S. obtain the island of Puerto Rico. I hope that you found my presentation informative and it enlightened you on the key focal points of Puerto Rico's establishment with the U.S. So next time you think about Puerto Rico being an outside country, remember that technically it belongs to the U.S. and Puerto Ricans are citizens. We should be thankful that such a beautiful island is part of our nation. Thank you for watching.